Another tool we have for changing our thinking is recategorization. When we recategorize something, we're changing the way we're thinking about it by switching to another type.
So let's see, my dog Romeo, right?
Yeah.
So he's a dog, right? That's a category. He's a pet. That's a category.
Yeah.
And they might make you think a little bit differently, right? If you think of something as a pet, other things come to mind, right? So goldfish or, you know, cats or whatever.
I'm not a dog person, so I think of him as a paperweight or a
exactly.
decorative, wall ornament.
Something annoying.
That's right.
Right? So these are categories, right?
Yeah.
And recategorization doesn't have to be anything terribly fancy, right? You know, this is we're sitting in chairs. You know, these are, I don't know, dining chairs or armchairs or, you know, you have a desk chair.
Electric chair.
Electric.
Sorry.
Well, the point is, you know, we've probably been making and selling and designing chairs for thousands of years, right? And we're still coming up with new ones, some of them dreadful. And all of those are recategorizations, right? Because they make you think a little bit differently about whatever it is we're dealing with. It's not just a pile of wood and foam and whatever this is, right? It's a way of conceptualizing. Yeah, it's changing our interpretation of it, and also what we think is related, what we think counts or doesn't count as that kind of a thing. So that's what recategorizations are going to do. They're going to allow us to change our interpretation of some aspect of our perspective. Recategorization changes how we think about something because categories offer just one of many possible interpretations. We can think of categories as maybe stereotypes or caricatures or models, something like that. As a result, when we switch categories, different aspects and connections become prominent. So let's take an example, maybe a computer. When it's being manufactured, people probably think about it as an electronic device. But when we're buying it, we probably think about it as a product. And then when we're using it, a computer, we probably think about it as a source of entertainment or a tool for getting work done. And each category, an electronic device, a product, entertainment, tool, highlights different properties and features of computers. Each different category leads us to consider different items. Entertainment as a category might make us think of games, videos, music, whereas when we think about tools, it might make us think about phones, copiers, offices, or maybe hammers or drills. For years, thinking about computers as electronic devices meant that people didn't pay that much attention to what they looked like. Once they were pretty common, though, and people started buying them and having them around their homes, the fact that they were a product that consumers would buy started to bring attention to the external design of computers. Namely, instead of being boring and ugly, the least we could do was to add some color, maybe some interesting shapes. Or to take a more recent example, computer routers only started recently looking like something you'd actually want to put out on a table rather than something you wanted to hide behind your desk. So to get ourselves to think differently about some aspect of a problem or some element of a story, it's useful to consider recategorizing it. So there are four main ways we can help ourselves recategorize something. We can zoom in, we can zoom out, we can consider the opposite, we can also switch pages. So let's start with zooming in. So if we're going to zoom in, then you might think about, I don't know, it's not just a chair, but it's a desk chair or a rocking chair. Or it's not just a dog, it's a basset hound or a Shih Tzu Bichon Poodle mix or whatever it might be, right? So let's take paper towel. So imagine we zoom in. What do you get if we zoom in on a paper towel?
It's an extra absorbent, multicolored, soft, all kinds of features.
Right.
So
choose your own size.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Extra large.
So I guess that's kind of how the process works, right? We're kind of noticing features about this object that may not have been apparent before we zoomed in.
Exactly. So when we think about what zooming in does to change your perspective, it's making you confront every detail of that item and think about how that might be or how it might play out.
Right.
Exactly. So zooming in is one way to change your perspective by flipping to a narrower category that might then have properties or elements that you hadn't considered because you've overlooked them.
I prefer dried leaves, but that's just me.
Well, so then the opposite, right? So the opposite of zooming in is zooming out.
Yeah.
So it's not just a chair, it's a piece of furniture, it's not a dog, it's a pet or an animal, something like that. So it's not a paper towel, it's a paper good, it's something I buy at the grocery store.
Right. Yeah. It's a roll of film, maybe, or some other thing. I don't know. Or is that too creative?
Well, so the idea of zooming out is sort of what's the broader, it's a category, it's a product I buy, it's something I use once, right? So it's a category that's more abstract, but contains the item
right. So
that we're talking about.
Right. So any kind of paper product would be broader than thinking about it narrowly as a paper towel.
Exactly, and that might lead you to new ideas.
Right.
So
I might notice connections between other things in that category that I could then combine and use to generate something more creative. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly right. So maybe I don't think of paper towels in a certain way, but I think, disposable goods, right? So maybe they come in convenience packs, right? I don't know. But do paper towels? No, maybe they could, right? Or something
so
like
I can think of paper products that have colors, and so like multicolored Kleenex, and then I think, well, paper towels could have colors as well, right? So then I'm combining those insights, right?
Yeah, so by zooming out, we can maybe see connections or possibilities that we can't when we're just thinking about the item itself.
Right.
Yeah, so zooming out. Another step is we can flip. We can consider the opposite. So, it's not a dog.
I try to do that just to be difficult for people. But I didn't know it was a tool.
That's right. So what's the opposite of a paper towel? I don't know. So not a paper towel, but a cloth towel. Or
instead of being absorbent, it's waterproof.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Or instead of being white, it's black, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned colors.
Right.
So it moves to get you to think of
instead of being rolled around in a circle, it's rolled around in a square, maybe.
Sure,
might be easier to store.
That's right, or laid out flat. Absolutely, sure. So it gives you different possibilities, and we often get them from counterfactuals, right? What if, or if only.
Yeah. So considering the opposite leads us in new directions.
Exactly, and that's a way to change our perspective. And then lastly, we can sort of switch the page that we have in mind. So if I'm thinking about a paper towel, am I thinking about a paper towel? Well, what role am I in? What's my self-concept?
Right.
Or what event am I in?
Yeah.
And so if I hold on to paper towel and then think, what's the event that I'm in? Am I at a birthday party? Am I at home? Am I at my office? Right? Where am I?
Or my self-concept, am I a mechanic or am I a cook?
Exactly.
Or, am I looking for something to hit, am I violent? I might try to hit you over the head with a paper towel. It leads you in new directions.
It absolutely does. Yeah. No. So I think that idea then is all of these are flips of a category, right? So am I getting narrower? Am I zooming out? Am I switching to the opposite? Or am I thinking about this same category but through the lens of some other element of my perspective?
Yeah, different roles, different goals, different points of view on it.
And all of that leads us to different interpretations, and therefore is a possibility for changing our perspectives.
Re-categorization is a tool for thinking differently about some aspect of pages. We can stumble into re-categorizations, but we can also deliberately consider the different pages and consider alternative categorizations, and in doing so, trigger insights that can lead to inventions or enlightenments.